Hi, everybody. My name is Lisa Ascalise, the inventress. My business is Inventing A to Z. At Inventing A to Z, I work with clients to take their products from concept to fruition, from a napkin idea all the way to the marketplace and everything in between, the right way. If you want to contact me, email me, lisa@inventingatoz.com. My website, inventingatoz.com.
So Lou, thanks for coming on the Adventures podcast. Yay! So exciting.
Yeah, of course, having me.
So exciting to have you. I just want to make a quick introduction. And I don't know how it could possibly be quick because there's so much to say about you. So everybody welcome Liu Johnston. Liu Johnston is the founder of Lemon Liu Press, independent publishing company, your own independent publishing company, which really caught my attention when I met you at a bookstore just a couple of weeks ago, right? Where you're focusing on Butch Lesbians of Color, which is so interesting, so interesting. Liu is an artist, a cartoonist, and a writer. Just amazing, brilliant, brilliant person. Welcome, Liu, to the Adventures podcast.
What an introduction. Thank you so much.
So happy to have you. You know, I just want to start by telling everyone how networking is so important. I wasn't networking on purpose when I met you on Saturday. We just happened to be in this quaint little bookstore in Manasquan, and I ran into you, Manasquan Point Pleasant area. And I saw you, and you were actually pitching your books to the owner of the store. And I was just listening. I'm like, this person is somebody I have to know. So Liu.
Yeah, it was like a surprise meeting.
It was great. That's how it goes. That's how it goes. So I want you to start talking about you because you're so fascinating to me. And I want our listeners to hear your story. You know, I loved your books. That was the first thing. Well, I was attracted to your beautifulness first, and your voice and how you were introducing yourself to Kelly. But let's start talking about you, Liu.
All right. Well, I am 25 years old. I am transracially adopted, which means I'm Chinese and I was adopted into an Irish Catholic white family from Changsha, China. And I've lived in New Jersey for my entire life since I got adopted to now. And yeah, no, it's been a wild ride, definitely trying to get all my books together for publication. And I was kind of scared of the mainstream press because not a whole lot of people are really open to publishing the type of stories that I'm looking to tell. So I figured, why wait around and try to beg everybody to publish my stuff? So I just found a website where I could publish my own books. And then I went forward from there. And now I'm kind of marketing and selling them myself. So.
And you have
kind of what's.
You have 8 books. 8.
Yeah, 8 of them.
It's amazing.
Yeah. I'll publish this year. So.
In 1 year, right?
Yeah.
It can be done, all of you viewers out there, it can be done with determination, perseverance like you've had. And I think you've had a lot of fuel to create that excitement to write your books. Am I right?
Yeah, no, totally. It's been like, the thing is, I've been working on writing the books themselves for maybe 3 years. And then this year, because of the pandemic and because of, I actually ended up catching COVID in March and I had really bad asthma in the first place. So I almost kind of died, but all the time I spent inside kind of recuperating was also time I spent trying to figure out how to format and publish books myself. And now we're here and it ended up working out. So that's kind of how that all happened.
A curse and a blessing, right? All good, all good. So I want to walk through a little bit of your beginning. You're a cartoonist. Can you hold up any of your books? Can you hold up Romeo and
Yes, I just have to go back on the shelf and get them for a second. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Oh, let's see how much of my messy room I can show on camera. You know what? I could even just take you with me. 1 second.
Yes, we'll go with you. Oh, this is great. We'll take a little tour.
Yeah, a little bit of a room tour. From the wall up, because my room is a mess right now, but yeah, all covered in
I love your back there.
Thank you. All right, let's see what I've got. So I have the most current rendition of Romeo Romeo here. For people who are listening rather than watching, it's just 2 characters on a blue background, and it's all my messy handwriting. So there's the first one. And then I have one that I actually didn't bring by the bookshop because it's way more of a comic than like a graphic novel, I guess. It's called Dandelion Wine.
Very
And it's
nice.
kind of black and white autobiographical book. And then I'm going to pull out Butches in Bloom, and then I'm going to sit back down because I could talk about these books all day, every day. And here's the last one. So it's full of less of a comic collection and more of an illustration. So I'll bring them back with me to wherever I'm sitting. So if you want to see more of them, you can.
Thank you. I love that. So I have to tell you, I think that your book sold out. I called after I spoke with you the other day, I called the store and to get Kelly, and I said, I actually sent her a text also. I said, I want to stop by the store and pick up a couple of copies. And I think she was out of them. She never got back. So I think she literally is out of those books.
Oh, that's great. I can always send you some if you'd like.
Yeah, I want to buy them. I was going to buy them online. I said, you know what? Let me just go patronize Kelly's little bookshop and get them that way. But lo and behold, I think you're selling out already.
That's so great. I'm so glad to hear. Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want you to, because people are going to be listening, hopping on and so forth, and hopefully staying on, give everyone your website.
Of course, it's lemonliuart.com. So the word lemon and then LIU art.com. So that's where I'm at.
So
if you want to find any.
Your social media, because I know you have quite a few followers at this point, and you just got started and you have many followers.
Oh yeah, it's my Instagram is Lemon Liu Press. So lemon, once again, LIU, and then press, and that's about it on Instagram. That's where you can find all my books and updates about publication.
So let's do a little bit of a let's hear your backstory. You know, we talked about, yes, you were adopted, and when did you know? First of all, this is what the books are about. We're gonna address this. When did you know you were number one, artistic? Because that's what you are. You're so creatively artistic. Your writing is incredible. What I did get to read, I was so fascinated by it. So let's talk about that. And of course, we're going to talk about when you came out.
Oh boy. All right. So when from the time I was adopted, my father, who's actually a big inspiration for all of my books, just because he encouraged me to be an artist, named me, my middle name is Virginia, after his grandmother who died of brain cancer when he was 15 years old. So I kind of had this almost like legacy of being an artist, kind of instilled in me since I was a kid. But continuing from there, my dad did not try to like make me, draw or anything. I just ended up really enjoying it. And then with his continued encouragement, I just kept going throughout, middle school, high school, and even through college. So now I just do art as often as I can, which is about maybe 2 or 3 times every day. I sit down and try to get some pages done.
That's fantastic. Now I'm sure he's passed at this point, right? I think we talked about that. So you said your grandmother, Virginia, was also an artist.
Yes. Yeah, she was a painter.
So ironically, and there's no blood relation, you just happen to have this innate talent in you that your father, I'm sure, was very, very proud of, right?
Yeah, no, it's just something I've always really enjoyed. And honestly, I didn't even really have that many friends when I was growing up, since I was in an area where, I was the only, kind of person of color in the whole school. Maybe there were one or two other kids, but other than me, being Chinese, and then maybe somebody who is like Latino, I was one of, a bunch of other white classmates, and they made fun of me constantly for being Chinese. So I kind of just sat by myself and drew. Like, that's kind of how I ended up surviving that situation in a lot of ways.
And that's a shame. That's very sad. That breaks my heart, actually. It really does. It's sad. But look where you are today, Lou. Look where you are today. Now, your focus in your books is, you say, Butch Lesbians of Color.
Yes.
How do you translate that into artwork and your comics?
I think when it comes to identity these days, it's a little overplayed at this point, in the way of, I feel like there's a lot of authors who do not share the identity of the characters they're making, and they're just kind of making them to prove a point and be kind of a metaphor rather than having them be real people. So my whole thing is that, since I am a butch lesbian of color, it's really important for my characters to have a similar identity to me. Just because it's very rare you see our stories ever published, ever really acknowledged. There's maybe one or two books I've ever seen in my life by other butch lesbians of color, and they're always very particularly like poetry collections that are very dated in a very specific way. So it makes it seem like who I am is part of a past rather than something that exists in the present. So it's very, very important to me to kind of just draw characters who look like me, and like wear clothes that I wear and have a life similar to the life I have, just to let people know, even in the future, like now, and then also way up the road, that like people like us exist. Like, that's very important to me, to have a record like that.
And I'm so glad you're the one to do it. I really am so happy that you're doing it. And you talk to me about your art and how you put your pencil to paper, your pen to paper, and start drawing. Because you did mention to me that in art school, you learned only Caucasian facial structures, right?
Yeah, for the most part, the figure models they have in, I guess it depends on the area you live in, but in my area, especially in Monmouth County, it's mainly, like white people who are coming in and modeling. And also, yeah, when they teach you basic facial structure and they show you images of like, this is what a human face looks like, and these are the proportions. Always Eurocentric features. Like, there's never really, you don't see visibly ethnic features very often. So I found myself drawing a lot of people of color who had brown or black skin, but their features were mainly like, they were very, white. So I had to teach myself through references, and also just like finally being able to look myself in the face and be like, you look like this, to draw my characters. And I'm glad I did, because now it makes me very happy to see that my entire cast of characters is like visibly ethnic people of color. So yeah.
And they're fabulous. They really are. And no, you got to, and thank you for doing that, and thank you for expressing that. We had such a wonderful conversation. Let's talk about, and you don't mind talking about it,
Yeah.
when you came out and the conversations that you had with your mom.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? The sound skipped out. I'm listening to you.
I said, when you came out and those conversations you had with your mom. And I'm saying this, everyone, because she gave me, they gave me permission to. And I want to talk about they, them, all of those things that are very, very new to listeners, to me, and my son is gay, married, and etc. But this is all very, very new to everyone, or many people who are.
Yeah, of course.
So let's talk about the conversation with your mom. And
the funny thing, yeah, sorry, what were you saying?
What that sounded like, what that looked like. Let's talk about that. Very interesting.
The funny thing is, for me, and I have a feeling for a few other people, this is probably their experience, who are LGBT, it was never really a solid conversation, because it was something that my mom could kind of know and could tell about me, just being gender nonconforming, being more of like a tomboy, and having interests that weren't necessarily, oh, girls like this or boys like this, just, like drawing and like reading and, playing outside, things that weren't necessarily like things that little girls would typically be encouraged to do when they were kids. So she kind of recognized the fact that I was like her when she was growing up. And she kind of tried to protect me by hurting me in a very specific way. So she would give me a lot of grief about just the things I like to do and the way that I was and the fact that I wasn't, the girliest girl on the planet. And it was a whole situation. And it was something she would never say to my face. Like she would never look at me or ask me like, are you a lesbian? But she would heavily encourage like, oh, like you should really be interested in boys at this point in your life. And you should learn how to do your makeup and you should, be interested in dressing a certain way. But the funny thing is she never dressed that way and she never really was that way herself. So she kind of just expected me to naturally pick it up because I have a feeling she probably kind of felt how I felt, where it's like, oh, isn't this something that's just supposed to naturally occur? Like when you get to a certain age, you're supposed to, grow out of certain interests and like, being a tomboy and you're supposed to, grow up and be, a quote unquote, a real woman. So it was definitely a very poignant situation of things that were left unsaid between us that kind of told me that she knew who I was.
Yes.
But she was not only afraid for me, but also afraid of what that meant if I really was that way. Because in a lot of ways, it was kind of a reflection on her in her mind, where it was like, oh, people are going to see that I'm gender nonconforming and that I raised this gender nonconforming child, and people are going to say something about me because, my child is just that way. So it was kind of that whole almost contentious situation growing up that escalated eventually into like, like actual like fights and like confrontation.
Do you think she was trying to protect you? Because as we talked the other day and I started listening to your story and listening to your backstory, your real life story, and I started thinking, I was wondering if she was trying to protect you. Society is not always accepting. Obviously, you talked about being Chinese and the only one in your classroom, et cetera. And she saw what you went through. Your mom clearly saw what you went through. You think that there was a level of protection that she didn't want you to go in that direction because it was too hard? It's just easier to be straight.
I think she was trying to toughen me up in a lot of ways. And I also think that it was not to give credit where credit isn't due, because I don't think she was doing something positive for me in the long run. I think she was kind of trying to hurt me before anybody else could, so I would be used to the hurt, if that makes sense. And I think her own mother did something very similar, because she was very much, once again, like a very tomboyish, gender nonconforming person in her childhood, all throughout her growing up, to the point where like she was very much like enamored with gay culture, like a lot of like theater culture and a lot of even like gay men who are within like the theater, culture. And she dressed in drag every Halloween, and then also sometimes just for fun, which was interesting to see growing up. So I think she understood in a lot of ways, but instead of trying to build me up and help me survive, she was kind of, once again, like hurting me in an attempt to help, or at least get me used to the amount of hurt that I would experience in my life.
That's very, very interesting. Because as you were telling me, we were talking the other day, I started thinking, well, you know your story better than anybody else. But in my head, I'm going, I wonder if she was just trying to protect her. And you're kind of saying the same thing. Toughen you up in the event that these things are going to happen. They have happened. Bullying has happened. And has bullying happened since you came out and stood proud of who you are and what you...
The funny...
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the answer is yes. And the funny thing about that is I was actually just dealing with the situation for the past few days, which you think it's a typical internet situation where you post a video or you even post a picture just in general of even yourself or your artwork where the characters look like you. And people will leave, racist or homophobic or transphobic comments. And it does feel very much like high school bullying, like cyberbullying when you're a kid in a lot of ways, because people are just saying whatever they can to hurt your feelings. But the funny thing is, it's coming from a lot of people within the community rather than people outside of the community. And it's sadly, a lot of other lesbians who I've seen who are being racist to me, unironically. And it's an issue because in a lot of ways, people do not think that Asian people particularly are capable of being masculine at all. And a lot of butch lesbianism, like particularly being butch, is, being like a masculine lesbian. So people look at my face, and I understand I don't look a certain way and I don't have a certain bone structure that you would expect from like an average, like white person who you would think is a lesbian. But the thing is, I think it makes a lot of people insecure that I'm speaking about my own life and speaking about my experiences. And they take it as, oh, you're trying to represent all of us, when I'm really just trying to represent myself. But they see me and they're like, you're not like me at all. And you look weak to me. So you're going to look weak to everybody else. So I don't want anybody associating my identity with you. So I'm going to leave nasty comments on your videos to try to get you to not post things.
Those are weak people who are insecure. We know that. Weak, insecure people.
Yeah.
That blows my mind that goes on. I mean, it does every single day. I'm sure people write comments about me. I have a wonderful social media person who I say to her, if anybody writes anything negative, I don't want to hear it. I mean, you're running your own social media, so you're going to see what people put up. And it means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. It has no legs. And but it hurt. I'm sure it breaks your heart. How do you,
yes.
I'm not sure. I don't know anything. You tell me how you feel about that.
I obviously wish it wasn't happening. It does hurt my feelings to a certain extent, although I really do try to just zip through it and delete and just walk away. But to a certain extent, it just makes me sad as a whole to see that somebody is in such a place in themselves that they see somebody who's pretty similar to them. Like, obviously having the same identity does not make you the same person as somebody else. Like, that's not true, but it's like, we live such a similar life to each other and we have semi-similar experiences and we're supposed to be there for each other in a very specific way. It's called an LGBT community for a reason. Like, we're supposed to be a community, but at the end of the day, I think it's easier to project the things you don't like about yourself onto somebody else rather than hold it inside of you. But the thing is, I find that the more negativity you give out, it's not like positivity where you give it out and then it like replenishes inside of you because it's something that gives back to you. It's something that creates more of a well of negativity within you. So it just is, you think you're passing on your, self-hatred to somebody else when really you're just digging a deeper hole for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I tried to keep that, but it's a little difficult when it's 11 at night and you're reading these things and you're like, what are you saying?
Delete, unfriend, or whatever it is you have to do, because it's not worth it. You know who you are, you know your value, you know who God made you. So some people bask in that negativity. It fuels their own whatever it is. I don't know what that is. Celebrities talk about it all the time. They're under attack, but the people who are attacking you will never come out to you and tell you to your face that this is how they feel. They're unhappy with themselves, and this is just, unfortunately, what they have to live with. It has nothing to do with you. You're an amazing person, artist. I mean, it was so cool to me. I'm gonna go back to this, and I want you to continue your story about your mom and your dad and how you took care of your mom and all of those things. But the coolest thing to me was when you walked into that store, you gave your presentation, you were so confident. I didn't know what you were doing there, but you gave your presentation. The owner of the store immediately said, yes, I recognize that. We talked about it afterwards. And I said to you, was that, you pitched her in that moment? You said, yes. I said, that was the pitch? You said, yes. And your pitch was amazing. And she said, yes. Kelly said, yes, the owner of the bookstore. Immediately. I was like, you rock. I was so impressed with your demeanor, with how you just presented yourself. I was like, that is somebody I need to know. That is someone I want to interview on my podcast. So I just had to reiterate that.
No, I really appreciate that. And the funny thing is, I feel like at least 99.9% of my confidence, including any confidence I am displaying in this moment, I am faking it. And that sounds really funny. And I know that's what a lot of people say, but genuinely, I feel like I do my best to put up a good front, but I'm really an artist who sits in front of a desk all day. And I'm very much like, I'm kind of a shy person. Like in general, if you meet me like on the street and I'm not doing my little book thing, I'm just like, hi, nice to meet you. Like so I don't know. I'm glad that I came off that way. I tried my best. So.
Yeah, it was so awesome. You're so just natural, just naturally approachable and kind, and all of the attributes that I love in a person, you were, and are. It's wonderful to have had that interaction with you. I could have talked to you all day in the bookstore. We talked for a long time on the phone too the other day. But
Yeah.
please continue sharing your story about your mom and how that wound up. All of these things that your mom did to help you and suppress everything. Continue telling that story about what wound up happening.
Yeah, it did not, obviously, seeing where I am today, it did not work. So I continued growing up, and I was just, like tomboyish throughout high school, until about my sophomore year. And my mom noticed, and she was not happy. But the thing is, she ended up getting sick during 8th grade. Like, she had breast cancer when I was really, really little, and it metastasized to her brain. So she ended up getting chemo and everything for that. And she was just, I was taking care of her. And I have an older sister who kind of ditched us a little bit. So I was the only person, cleaning the house and walking the dog and making sure she wasn't hurting herself. So I was essentially kind of hospice care for her, which I had done for my father years before, when I was really, really, I was 10 years old, and he was also sick with brain cancer, which is a whole separate story. So I'm taking care of her, and she's just, the more she's on chemo, the more irritable she's getting, the more upset she's getting, and the more reflective of the fact that she may or may not die, she's kind of getting. So she's kind of trying to drive it in really, really hard for me, that if I don't start being quote unquote normal soon, I'll turn out just like she did. And, she sits there and she says, oh, I met your father, and it was the right thing to do. And then we adopted kids because it was the right thing to do. And now we're here. It sounds like she didn't ever really want to get married or have children, because she may or may not have been LGBT herself. I have a feeling she's either like bisexual, or at the very, most, like, she's also another butch lesbian. But I think she just didn't want that for me. So she kept saying it. And then I ended up having to leave the house because she got so sick to the point that she was picking physical fights with me. And my aunt found out, and she had no idea any of this was happening. So she found out not only was my mom picking fights with me, but also all this other stuff was going on without her knowing. So I ended up getting removed from the house and living in a different house or actually 3 different houses for the rest of high school. So I kind of bounced around a little bit, and all the while, all this family stuff is happening. And I know for a fact, like, I know that I'm a lesbian. Like, I know it. Like, I've known since I was like 5 years old. But the thing is, with all the family stuff going on and with everything else happening in my life, I just knew that it felt like it was never the right time. But I got to a point when I was like 19 years old where I was like, when is the right time going to be? Like, am I going to keep trying to be a different person forever? And then I finally got to myself, actually in a Denny's. I was sitting there like crying over a plate of hash browns, texting a friend who I was very in love with, being like, I was in love with you. Like, I wish we could have been together, but things were not working out that way, especially in our high school, where people were very, very homophobic and also racist. Because once again, majority white school in a small square mile town, like, it was not a place to come out safely. Like, people were actually getting bullied and threatened if they even, considered coming out. So that was a whole problem. So yeah, no, I told my friend, and the rest is kind of semi-history. Like, now I'm out, and I'm like very glad that I'm out, but at the same time, I'm starting to understand more and more why my mother maybe would have wanted something different for me. Like I get that. Not saying like, oh, it was right for her to treat me that way, because it's never right for a parent to bully their child. That's not okay. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't regret coming out, and I couldn't have it any other way, because I think it eventually would have actually like killed me to continue to pretend to be somebody who I'm not. But yeah, so that's kind of how we got here.
That's awesome. Now, so was your friend surprised?
No, their name's Darby. They were not surprised at all. They were like, we were texting, and they're like, I really wanted to be with you too. Like, you're the only like other like person in high school who was not a guy who I really wanted to be with, but we couldn't. And I was like, then I cried again. It was like a whole situation. So yeah, no.
What a blessing. And you and Darby are still close?
I love them more than anything. 2 years ago, it's about to be the 3-year anniversary. They took their own life, because their life, for very particular reasons of their mom not being supportive and their mental health, and also like, I think being in a relationship with a very abusive man led them to, not want to keep, living in their life that they're living, and there wasn't really a clear way out for them. So then dying.
So sorry. That is so sad. And we hear that more than not. We hear that a lot in the in the gay and lesbian community. And this is what, again, I love your story coming out, and your work and your artistry, and you're really showcasing a platform for people who really need it. You really are. You're showing them that it's okay to come out. You're showing them through your words, through your art. And again, please mention your website again, because we're going to continue to do this so that people.
Yes.
Right.
I get what you mean. It's lemonliuart.com. So lemon and then liuart.com. And it's not funny, but like the thing is, all of the books that I make are dedicated to Darby. Like their name and my dad's name, kind of my nickname for him, are in the front of every single book that I write. And it's very important to me just to remember the people who made not only Lemon Liu art, or Lemon Liu Press possible, but also just like, I feel like it sounds very cliche, but I think about them and I'm like, they really just give me like the strength to carry on. Like, I don't know how else I can put that. Like they're the two most important people in my life, and they're not here anymore, and I miss them every day, but they're extremely important to me, to the point where I like to honor them in front of every single book that I make.
Well, that's outstanding, Lou. You are such a phenomenal person, again, as I said, and I would love for people to follow you and take a look at your artwork and more about you, because you share yourself, and that's really important to so many people. And now here we are in June, where it is Gay Pride. Yeah. It's Gay Pride Month. It's Gay Pride. It is. And this, everybody's going to hear this and relate. You're an artist, you're a creator. Not that I wanted to stay on the LGBT conversation, but it's very, very important. I want to talk about your talents and your art. So you're everything combined. You're so much to so many people. And certainly to me, I really appreciate you. And I can't wait to get together with you. You're close by, you're in Jersey. We have to have lunch. We'll go back to the bookstore. And there's a lot of restaurants around there, by the way. I don't know if you took the time to shop in Manasquan and eat. Yeah, I do.
Oh, I have, but let me treat you to lunch. I'd really love to. Like, seriously, I'll buy you a meal or something. Like, I really appreciate you on the podcast.
Thank you. I would love to just hang out with you and spend some time. Let's go to the beach before our New Jersey weather starts to change.
Yeah, we're gonna have to fight off all the bennies, but it'll be fun.
That's okay. Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure having this wonderful conversation with you. And if you want to leave anything with anybody, a message, please do so before we wrap.
I'm thinking. I think the main thing off the top of my head that I was thinking when you mentioned Pride Month, it's just, I think a lot of people in a very interesting way think that Pride now, after like, you know, post gay marriage being legalized, that it's just like a rainbow themed generalized parade. And I do want to say that Pride is almost like a birthday to me. And, you know, I consider it a birthday for a bunch of other people who are also like LGBT, because it's another year we survived. It really is another year that we've survived in the world. And I think that means such a, just, it means everything to me. And I think it means a lot in general, you know, in life, like that. If you're, you know, LGBT and you're listening, like you're still here, like you've survived another year of like, whether, you know, you live in a big city or whatever, and you're doing your thing, or you're like me, or you're like so many of my friends who I know who are kids from small towns who really did not have any sort of representation anywhere. And we had to create ourselves. Like we had to discover ourselves and that we existed in a very specific way. So I do want to say like, happy Pride. And I am personally so proud of like every one of you listening. Like I am like, so like happy that you're still here. And I think that's the main thing. Yeah.
I love that. And so many listeners are going to take that in and really appreciate that. I'm sure so many people, I know how many people are going to share this podcast because they need to hear it. They want to hear it. They want you to share. So please keep on sharing. And you're going to come back because we have a lot more to talk about. But before we wrap, what song, is there a song that inspires you every single day? Or a song that really inspires you to get yourself going?
I'm trying to think of something that isn't like from the Hannah Montana soundtrack. Let me,
it's okay.
I think the entire Kid Crow album by Conan Gray, but especially the song Astronomy by Conan Gray. It's a very sad song. It's about a relationship that didn't work out, but it's something that I like to listen to in the background of, you know, whenever I make art, just because it's such a realistic portrayal of love that I'm pretty sure is between two people who are like LGBT. And I think, I don't know, I just love all of his music. And I think he's like an indie artist who's like really going somewhere. And I'm very excited to hear more of his music. So, and he's also like, he's half Asian. So I look at him and I'm like, yeah, like awesome.
All right. We can relate. And what's your happy dance? We could do this together. Is there a happy dance that you do when you get another book published and finished and you walked into the bookstore and it's done? What's the happy dance? What was the dance you did when you walked out of the store?
Let me, I mean, that wasn't a dance. That was literally me after having I get nervous when it comes to professional things in general. And to me, that's like, I consider that like a professional meeting, like, please accept my book. So like, I did my whole, like, please accept my book thing. And then I walked out of the store and I was like, like literally like, I ran to my, because I just like, once again, I get really anxious in general. So like, I like put on my little business face and I'm like, hi, nice to meet you. I'm Liu Johnston. And then I leave and I'm like, like, oh no. Yeah, I guess my happy dance is me literally just being like, ah ha ha, like it's a page or whatever, and I look ridiculous, but I'm in my house, so it doesn't matter.
You could do whatever you want, whatever you want. This again has been an absolute pleasure. Got to have you back on. There's so much more to share, and everybody go out and buy all of the copies, all 8, and there's more to come. I'm sure we still have a few months left in 2021. I'm sure you'd be knocking out a few more before the end of the year.
No. Yeah, the goal was to actually publish 10 books. So I'm almost there, and I'm going to be publishing Butches in Bed and then Liuxing magazine and then the Duke Diamond comic series. So that's going to be fun. So it's 3 more books. So that's like 11. And then I actually have a few more planned, but those are the ones that I'm hoping to finish the soonest. And Lavender Drought. Okay, so there's 12 books. All right, so we've got a lot on the chopping block to get done. So I'm very excited.
You're getting it done. I have faith in you. I know you can. I know you can. You've already proven it. Keep on doing what you're doing, Lou.
You too. I really appreciate once again being on the podcast, but also, I don't know, thank you for like having me and being a great host. Like seriously.
Well, you're wonderful. You're wonderful. Thank you. And we will talk real soon. Lunch next week.
Sounds good. Text me and let me know when you're free, or I'll text you, I guess. Either way. Yeah. Sounds good.
All right. Take care. Wonderful
Bye.
seeing you. Bye. That was amazing. What can I tell you? Liu Johnston, owner of their own publishing company, wrote 8 books this year and slated to write 12 altogether. Okay, so what an inspiration. I'm certainly inspired by them, 100%. Can't wait to have them back. So Liu Johnston, Lemon Publishing, just incredible, incredible, incredible. Made my year. They really did. They really did. And we're going to talk about that too. Those things, the they, them, their. That's the next conversation. But anyway, listen, if you want to be on my podcast, please make sure you email me. Go to info@inventingatoz.com. That's info@inventingatoz.com. My website, inventingatoz.com. And certainly subscribe to the Inventress podcast. You can watch us on YouTube and listen to us in every single podcast platform, all of the major podcast platforms. So please don't hesitate to do that and subscribe. I can't tell you enough how important that is and how much we really appreciate your viewership and you listening. Until next time, keep lifting each other up, 2 hands at a time, and sometimes you just gotta use that foot.